The United States is threatening Russia with new sanctions over Syria. It follows a combined assault by America and its allies against the Assad government. The US envoy to the United Nations said Russia will face new restrictions over its support for Damascus.
So you will see that Russian sanctions will be coming down. Secretary Mnuchin will be announcing those on Monday, if he hasn't already, and they will go directly to any sort of companies that were dealing with equipment related to Assad and chemical weapons use. And so I think everyone is going to feel it at this point. I think everyone knows that we sent a strong message, and our hope is that they listen to it.
As Nikki Haley mentioned there, the proposed sanctions would hit Russian companies that deal with the Syrian government. The planned restrictions and the strike on Syria are aimed at ending an alleged chemical weapons program there. One of the targets of the US-led attack was a research facility near Damascus. The Syrian government says it was a civilian object. We spoke to a technician who'd worked there who said that the International Chemical Weapons Watchdog had checked the center several times and found no signs of any violation.
You can see that nothing has happened here. I've been here myself since 5 a.m. There are no signs of chemical warfare agents. This is a civilian facility, and drugs and chemicals production technology was developed here for peaceful economic purposes. The OPCW visited this facility several times, carrying out several thorough inspections. The organization received a lot of help in its work, and so did the members of its teams. There was even a special place on this site allocated for the OPCW, so they could collect and package samples taken from places that had to be inspected.
Just to remind you, in the early hours of Saturday morning, the combined forces of the US, the UK and France pounded missile and airstrikes on Syria. The allies say the assault came in response to an alleged chemical attack in the Syrian city of Douma a week earlier. Western countries blame the attack on the Assad government, though no solid evidence has been provided yet. Russia slammed the US-led strikes on Syria as an act of aggression and called a UN Security Council meeting at the weekend. There, Moscow proposed a draft resolution calling for members to condemn the attack as a violation of international law. It also demanded the US and its allies to cease their aggression against Syria and allow the OPCW to conduct a thorough investigation. But after a heated encounter, the draft was quashed.
Paris, Washington and London chose to ignore all calls for sanity. You have nothing but disdain for the UN Charter and the Security Council, which you are using in your illicit aims.
The UN Charter wasn't conceived to protect criminals. Our action absolutely corresponds to the goals and values proclaimed in the Charter.
The US and its allies continue to show blatant neglect of international law.
I will take no lessons, Mr. President, in international law from Russia.
You don't treat the Security Council seriously. You don't work to its guidelines. You don't talk to us, and you don't consult us.
The time for talk ended last night. The United States is locked and loaded. When our president draws a red line, our president enforces the red line.
The US says it is ready to shoot and it's locked and loaded. We are sad and concerned to hear this. We know that they have aircraft, satellites, smart missiles and a nuclear weapons arsenal. Now we also know that they have disdain for international law.
We are prepared to sustain this pressure if the Syrian regime is foolish enough to test our will.
Is this how you want international affairs to be conducted now? This is hooliganism, and not minor hooliganism, since we are talking about major nuclear powers.
The Syrian government lambasted the assault as barbaric, accusing America, the UK and France of igniting tension in the region. Here's how people in Damascus reacted to the attacks.
The strike on Syria was treacherous, but it's given Syrians the determination to overcome terrorism. It was an aggressive assault on Syria, our beloved country.
We've been living in this crisis for 7 years now. Such a strike won't affect us at all, and our country will improve in general.
If these strikes mean something, it's the moral bankruptcy and failure of the West and the terrorist groups.
It feels like we have something inside that prohibits us from being afraid. You can see how people go to the market and out in the streets. No one has been affected or felt any fear.